A big series win in the Bay against the rival Giants was exactly what the Dodgers needed ahead of a potential NLDS preview versus the Phillies that starts today.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's time for Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Dodgers went up north and handled business against the Giants. Unfortunately, they had to do so without Will Smith, who is back on the IL. But in his absence, Ben Rortvedt is making a case to be in the postseason roster. And I'll tell you why I think Shohei Ohtani should pitch exclusively at Travis Ravine the rest of 2025. We have a jam-packed episode today, Travis.
2 out of 3 in San Francisco is always a good deal, Harry. The Dodgers actually starting to play some of their better baseball of the year. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today.
He's Travis Rogers. I'm Harry Ruiz, two guys who talk sports for a living and bleed Dodger Blue for life. You can get more Travis on 710 ESPN LA or the ESPN LA app from 3 to 6 p.m. with the Travis and DeMarco Show. As for me, I'm the Spanish play-by-play broadcaster for the USC Football Trojans and the Las Vegas Raiders. But nothing beats jumping on the mic every weekday morning and diving deep into what I love most, talking Dodger baseball with you. And we want you to be a part of our show. Hit us up on the Locked On Dodgers listener line at 279-3-LOCKED or 279-356-2533. You can either leave us a voicemail or a text, and you might be featured in our show. It doesn't matter at what time of day you hit us up. Your voicemail will be recorded, your text will be received, and you might end up getting the spotlight here on Locked On Dodgers. Leading off, scoreboard watching. Both the Padres and the Phillies took 2 out of 3 games against the Rockies and Royals, respectively, with LA also winning 2 in the Bay. So that leaves us still in the same spot as when they started their series this past weekend. Dodgers 2.5 games ahead of San Diego in the NL West. Philadelphia 4.5 game lead over Los Angeles for the National League's second seed. So now, with that out of the way, let's talk Dodgers-Giants. Anytime you can take a series out there from the Bay, it feels like a sweeter moment, a better weekend. And this time, the Dodgers did it in convincing fashion. And with San Francisco coming into this series as one of the hottest teams in baseball, Travis, even though they couldn't sweep, they were close to, they could have, it felt like they could. I feel like this right here was an encouraging weekend for the boys in blue.
I thought it was one of their best weekends in a really long time. As bad of a start as it got off to on Friday night, and I'm sure we'll talk about the grand slam that won the game in the 10th inning. You said it, Harry. They could have easily swept this series. Yamamoto was amazing on Friday night. That if Verlander had not been just as good, the Dodgers probably walk out of there winning all 3. I also like what you said. San Francisco was the hottest team in baseball coming into this series. They had been on fire for several weeks in a row, and the Dodgers matched them. They matched the intensity. They matched the quality of play. They were able to beat them on the mound 2 of the 3 nights, and the one night they did not win, they were just as good. Their bullpen faltered a little bit. I am incredibly bullish on what I've seen. There was some stuff. There were some weird base running things that happened along the way. There were a couple of bad at-bats with the bases loaded that I'd like to see cleaned up along the way. But I'm incredibly optimistic about what I saw because this was not the Colorado Rockies. They are in a pennant race, or at least a divisional race, a seeding race. These games are very, very important. And you're starting to see a team that looks a lot like the team we hope they're going to be. In particular, you're seeing Mookie Betts look like an MVP all over again, and it's incredibly
interesting. Absolutely. Well, you brought up Friday. What a heartbreaker for the boys in blue. I was actually in Indianapolis before calling USC versus Purdue, so I had to stay up until 1 in the morning, past 1 in the morning, to be able to watch that game. And I was like, come through, boys. But it was a great pitching duel. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Justin Verlander, both of them went 7 innings strong while allowing 1 run each. It was a 5-1 Dodgers loss with Tanner Scott surrendering a bases-loaded walk-off grand slam. 99 times out of 100, I'm pissed off at Scott. This one, actually, a bad umpire call took an out off of the scoreboard in the ninth. Instead of a foul tip strikeout, it became a walk, and a couple of pitches later, adios, Giants win. I honestly feel it's the first time that I'm not mad at Chandler Scott because of that bad call from the ump. I think it would have been a completely different game. It could have been the same issue. We'll never know, but at least I was like, man, we had 2 outs, but it just became 1 because of a bad umpire call that's unreviewable.
Yeah, it's funny. For the first time all season, I kind of felt like I agreed with Tanner Scott and that baseball hates him right now. When you start seeing things like that, it's like, oh my gosh, he might be right. The baseball gods might be conspiring against him. You're right. He got a little unlucky with calls. Unfortunately, that's part of it. And sometimes you're going to have to find a way to get through it anyway. And he was unable to do it. You saw him pitch the next night, obviously in a very different situation where they had a much larger lead and the stakes were very different. And he was better. Kirby Yates was a little bit better yesterday. But kind of sticking with Friday night for a second, let's look. I know when we see something we don't like, we say it. We need to own it when something on the opposite side happens. Michael Conforto hit an enormous home run off of Justin Verlander to tie that game at 1. Huge. That was the high water mark for him this season. He had 3 hits again yesterday. It looks like he might finally be finding a little groove right there. But yeah, Friday night was really disappointing. And here's the other thing about Friday that I think is a silver lining. That could have been a gut punch, Harry. That could have been one of those things that takes all the wind out of your sails, that whatever good baseball you were playing against Colorado, it goes out the window like that. And instead, they showed up on Friday and on Saturday, and they were really good. And then they showed up yesterday afternoon on Sunday, and they were really good again. Tyler Glasnow, absolutely terrific yesterday. But this is what I'm talking about. Going into the series, I was talking about this on my radio show. It wasn't necessarily, do you want him to win the games? Of course you want him to win the games, but what does it look like? How are they playing? How are they competing? Are they having quality at-bats in important situations? Are they able to get some of these relief guys in high leverage places where they're going to have some success? And I think the overwhelming verdict on this is, yeah, they really did. There was some stuff that wasn't great in there, but overall, hot team that you're playing against in their own ballpark, seemed like the gods were kind of conspiring against you, and you still found a way to win the series convincingly. Like they kicked their butts on Saturday and Sunday, and I feel really good about where they are. It's been a long season. It's been a good season. It has not been what I think anybody was looking for, but it does look like it's finally starting to round into shape. Shohei feels like he's getting close to exploding again with that big home run that he had on Saturday. It feels like they're very close to being the team that we want them to be, we got to get the bullpen squared away.
Absolutely. And man, Saturday, that was such a fun game to follow. Kershaw only lasted 3 innings, which started getting me nervous. But fortunately, This was the day the Dodgers bats caught fire for 2 days in a row. 13-7 win over the Giants. Only one of those runs came via the home run, which was the solo bomb that you just brought up from Shohei Ohtani, his 49th of the season. He's 1 away from getting 50 plus for back-to-back years wearing Dodger blue. But the best part was Shohei, Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez, 3 hits. Mookie Betts, Andy Pages, Ben Rortvedt, multi-hit games. Everyone in the starting lineup got on base. Oh, and by the way, they did it against Logan Webb, who got pulled after 4 innings pitched, where he surrendered 10 hits and 6 runs. Everyone was like, if you want to win one in the Bay this weekend, it has to be on Friday, because then you got the 2 top of the rotation guys for the Giants, and the Dodgers demolished both of them. First against something that I absolutely loved. And you saw the Dodgers put up that big spot late in the game, or midway through the game, when they were down, when they were losing, they were able to put 6 up on the scoreboard in the 5th inning, where it was like, man, this one feels different. And that's the way it felt throughout the Saturday and Sunday matchups.
It really did. And let's go back to Saturday for a second, that after the heartbreak that was Friday night, after what I'm sure those guys walk back into the clubhouse in San Francisco thinking, man, it happened again. I can't imagine what's going through Tanner Scott's head. It's got to be incredibly disappointing for him and discouraging. And then you go out there the next day, you score a run, in the top of the 1st inning. You're like, okay, we got a run against Logan Webb right out of the chute. That's good news. And then Kershaw immediately has a rough inning. There's some errors. Pages made an error in that spot. that cost them some momentum. But instead of kind of rolling over and saying, oh boy, here we go again, they started to swing the bats. And to, like you said, Clayton Kershaw had one of his worst starts of the year, and they still found a way to get him off the hook. They still found a way to pound Logan Webb. They still found a way to get into that bullpen and blow it up in that fifth inning, like you mentioned. And that could have easily been, okay, let's just save our bullets for Sunday and try to salvage one game out of the series. Instead, they won that. That did not feel like a game that was set up for them to win after the way that first inning or two went. And not only did they win, they won comfortably. I really think it set them up well for Sunday. I was very impressed with their resiliency. And again, this is what gives me a great deal of optimism about what's coming up in October. They're starting to play tougher. They're starting to be more resilient. They're starting to continue to fight, especially in the early innings, where typically before it's like, okay, if we score a bunch of runs, we're going to win. If we don't, we'll see what happens. But we got another one the next day. They're really grinding out some games and some at-bats. It's very encouraging.
Man, how about Sunday? Dominance versus all-star Robbie Ray. Racked up 18 hits total in a 10-2 win, where despite walking 4 early, Tyler Glasnow, you mentioned he had a good outing. He was able to pitch into the 7th inning, allowing only 3 hits and 1 run. Double-digit runs against a team who has been playing really good baseball the last couple of weeks. That's the motivation boost that I think the Dodgers needed to be like, hey, we are still this team. They on the side know they have it, but they hadn't shown it in a while. And mostly with the lineup getting cold throughout July, August, the little bit of the beginning in September, they hadn't been consistent. And look, last week, folks were like, oh, you're beating teams under 500. Right there, we beat a team that had played really good baseball over the last 3 weeks. The Dodgers now have an opportunity to show this weekend that it's not just a fluke, that they're actually getting into that October mode, being now mid-September. And I'll say this, beating the Giants in September means more than just wins and losses. It's about keeping the momentum on your side as you roll into the postseason and keep those guys out of it too.
And the best part, Harry, in my opinion, on offense at least, put the pitching in a different category all of a sudden, but they did it without hitting a bunch of home runs, which is really encouraging. That look, when you hit home runs, you're probably going to win, right? Home runs are an incredible, a balm for whatever it is that ails you. But they scored a bunch of runs on Saturday and Sunday without hitting home runs. It's a great sign.
Yeah, and while the Dodgers left San Francisco smiling, there's a new problem back in L.A. Will Smith is on the injured list. Next on Locked On Dodgers, it may have opened the door for another catcher to lock in a postseason role.
The NFL season is here. And I say it is here. Go Rams, 2-0. By the way, check out Locked On Rams. FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer for this NFL season, because right now, new customers, all you have to do is just bet $5. And if that bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And there are a million reasons to love FanDuel. For instance, FanDuel fits however you like to bet. If you like player props, FanDuel. If you like building a same-game parlay, I do like those. FanDuel. Even jumping in lives, the action unfolds and you start seeing something, FanDuel. It makes every single game more exciting, whether you're just watching your team or maybe you're just keeping an eye on all your fantasy guys across the league. It is quick, it is easy, and it is absolutely the best way to add that little something extra to your Sundays, right? So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I, we're making decisions every single day. But on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. And with football in full swing, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Here's how you do it. It's super easy and very, very fun. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. Here's what I had going on PrizePicks yesterday, week 2 of the NFL. Matthew Stafford, more or less than 238.5 yards, took the more, bang, it hits. Cam Ward, more or less, 199.5 yards on PrizePicks. I took the less, boom, it hits. It is that easy. You pick more or less 2 to 6 players, and you can cash in. And there's always some max discounts. They're giving you some freebies along the way. Here's what's coming up this week. Patrick Mahomes, half a passing yard. I think you're going to get that one. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use that code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 play. PrizePicks. It's good to be right.
Thanks for making us your first listen wherever you may be tuning in, either on your favorite podcast app or our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Smash the notification bell so you never miss a beat. Full episodes, hot takes, breaking Dodgers news, and the Dodgers postcast show with Pete Fox live after the final out of every game. If it drops, you're on it. That's how you become an everydayer here on Locked On Dodgers. Here's the news that stinks from the weekend. Will Smith is hitting the IL with his right hand bone bruise. The initial x-rays and CT scans, let's remember, they were negative. But on Tuesday, he was a late scratch just 15 minutes before first pitch due to hand swelling. Now he won't be available until the 20th, when the Dodgers will only have 8 games left in the regular season. He's been a constant presence for the Dodgers. When every player was struggling, he was the guy that was going through for the boys in blue in the lineup, both behind the plate and in the middle of the order. Losing him, even if it's just for 10 days, feels like a gut punch. But baseball is always going to be a next man up kind of sport, as pretty much every professional sport is right now. And that man is Ben Rortvedt, who, Travis, out of nowhere, now I'm discussing, is he going to be the backup catcher in the postseason roster over Dalton Rushing? Because he's looked impressive.
He really has. And Harry, I'm not trying to make a joke here when I say it, but with a name like Rortvedt, it's a hard one to kind of wrap your tongue around at first. He made us learn his name really fast.
Oh yeah,
and that's a good sign that Ben Rortvedt was one of those guys that whatever. He's going to be here for 5 minutes, and he's not going to be here for 5 minutes. I think that there is a really good chance that he ends up being on the postseason roster, because Dalton Rushing, of course, is down for a long time, and Rortvedt. There's so many things about him that have been impressive, but. He gets on base a lot at the bottom of the order. He's setting the table for Shohei Ohtani. He's giving that lineup a little bit more depth, and that's certainly important. But to me, that's way down the list of what he's done. Think about this. Think about who he's being asked to catch on a regular basis. This isn't just a guy that's been around, for 5 seconds, who's thrown into the big leagues in a weird situation. Go catch a Hall of Famer in Clayton Kershaw. Go catch maybe the best pitcher in the National League, not named Paul Skeens, in Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Go deal with Tyler Glasnow, who, by the way, not the most stable guy in the world when he's out there on the mound. Go catch Blake Snell, who's one of the nastiest guys that you're going to find. Go catch Shohei Ohtani, who throws a 102-mile-an-hour fastball. Good luck. He's done all of that and done it incredibly well. And like I mentioned at the top, he's found a way to get on base in a regular basis. They're going to need Will Smith if they're going to win the World Series. That would be a big blow. Will Smith's going to get some MVP votes. That's how good of a season that he has had along the way. When he went down, followed immediately by Rushing going down, that could have been a hole in the side of the Dodger boat that was unrepairable. And Ben Rortvedt comes in, and not only has managed to kind of deal with it, he's thrived. He has thrived in that role. It's incredibly impressive. He deserves all the credit in the world. And we'll see what it looks like come injury time, whether Smith and Rushing are both ready to go by the time you get to the postseason. But if you got to play with Ben Rortvedt, I think Dodger players, I think Dave Roberts, I think Andrew Friedman, everybody feels pretty good about it. And that's just this shy of a miracle. It really, truly is.
Yeah, after the last week, even Dodgers fans, I feel they're comfortable. We're comfortable saying it's like, hey, you know what? We're good with Ben Rortvedt. And 2 weeks ago, that wasn't the case, because he was a guy on the outside looking in for October just a couple of weeks ago, where he had been away in the trade for Hunter Fiducia, where the Dodgers got 2 prospects when it comes to pitching. And it was like, well, if we gave away our third catcher, let's get the third catcher back because we might need it eventually. And heck, right now they even need a fourth and a fifth catcher with the way that things are going. And as bad as he's made most of his opportunities. And right now, I'm seriously considering him over Dalton Rushing when it comes to being the backup catcher over Will Smith, because Rushing, we saw him struggle with pass balls. We saw him struggle up in the batter's box. Ben Rortvedt has been very solid in both aspects with the Dodgers since taking over with Will Smith being hurt.
I think what you probably is going to be the differentiating factor. Now, look, if Dalton Rushing is 100% healthy and ready to go, and Will Smith's 100% healthy and ready to go, I think the decision is probably better there. Though, I mean, Rushing is a better player than Rortvedt, I think. But here's where it gets a little more interesting. Go to those pitchers. Hey, man, in a pitch, if it's not Will Smith, who would you rather throw to? Who are you more comfortable with throwing that breaking ball up a run with a runner at third base, and you got to bury something in the dirt? Who do you trust more to make sure that that ball's in front of the plate? Is it Rortvedt or is it Rushing? And the answer may be whoever's on the roster, right? If the answer is, look, man, Dalton's great, but I want to go with Rortvedt, then it's going to be Rortvedt. If it's Rushing, then it's going to be Rushing. I don't know. Will Smith, if he's healthy, obviously is going to be there. That goes without saying. But that next spot has gotten really interesting because, like we talked about a second ago here, he's just so calm and he seems so comfortable in these situations. And you would expect really big eyes. You would expect a lot of sped up and frantic energy. And he's chill. Like, he is just a cool customer. And for a guy behind the plate, that's a big deal.
Absolutely. And right now, look at those numbers from Ben Rortvedt. He went hitless in his first 2 games as a Dodger, but since in 7 games, he's averaging .348, mostly as a number 9 batter, setting up Shohei Ohtani for success, being more than a solid catcher behind the plate. This is the kind of guy where it's like, okay, that's not what you were expecting to see from him. And now it's not just as he's filling in. I think he's actually giving himself a roster spot in the postseason, because you have a less than 100% Will Smith, a less than 100% Dalton Rushing, and Ben Rortvedt is the only one that actually is 100% going in there. So shout out to Ben Rortvedt. You made us learn how to pronounce your name the moment when you came up. But now it's like nobody should mispronounce it. Everybody knows who he is.
I'll throw one other thing in there before we move on to the next topic, and that is, you know what he doesn't do? He doesn't swing at bad pitches. And he's just one of those guys that, I've said this a bunch. Everydayers will know this. When you don't chase, when you force the opposition to throw a bunch of pitches, you're going to get into those bullpen guys that are further down the list. You're going to get into more vulnerable bullpen options, and Ben Rortvedt has fit in really well at not chase. And look, when you're hitting in front of Shohei Ohtani, you can get on base a time or two. That solo home run that we've seen a bunch of, Ohtani's got 49 homers, and he's got about, just shy of 100 RBIs. Half of his RBIs are himself. You get a couple of guys on in front of him, it can be a game changer.
Travis, you as a former baseball player and a current great broadcaster, you know this, but it also applies for life. Sometimes opportunity finds you at the perfect time, and Rortvedt may have just found his.
For sure.
And speaking about stars stepping up, Shohei Ohtani is about to return to the mound on Tuesday. Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, I've got one reason why the Dodgers should only let him pitch at Dodger Stadium the rest of the year. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like this actually works. There are so many products out there, and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. And you can feel good about it knowing Nutrafol is an NSF certified and backed by peer-reviewed studies. See thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off of your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Don't forget to follow Locked On Dodgers not only on YouTube, but on X, Instagram, and TikTok as well. You can find Travis on social media at Travis Rogers on X and Instagram. There'll be a photo from Chavez Ravine there from tonight's game. I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, and at Harry Ruiz_ on TikTok. I'll be at the stadium in Las Vegas calling Monday Night Football with my iPad on the side, watching the Dodgers as well. Shohei Ohtani, he's coming back to the mound on Tuesday after an 11-day span without pitching. The Dodgers have been winning with pitching depth, but adding Ohtani once again definitely is something that we need, knowing that the wild card round starts on September 30th. That's 2 weeks away from Tuesday, and I feel he gives you one of the best chances to win with him starting, and you want to have his arm hot and ready. And here's an idea I want to throw out there that I want to pitch to the Dodgers, no pun intended. Have Shohei Ohtani pitch exclusively at Dodger Stadium. Why? You can control the environment. You know the mound. You know the bullpen routine. Less unpredictability. No humidity like he has had in some outings over in the East Coast. The crowd is in your favor, and he has a better chance of keeping Ohtani locked in and healthy for when it matters most, which is absolutely this time of year, late September and in October. Travis, I feel that this is the best chance to, when you got Shohei out there, it's great. When you have Shohei at home, I feel it's even better, and I think that's an idea that the Dodgers should go around, especially with the way that the calendar ends up in the postseason.
Yeah, the postseason calendar is a little different. You're right. That there's more off days. You're able to set up things a little bit more the way that you would want to do it ideally. My only hesitation, Harry, is that sometimes blank happens, right? Sometimes you can't set it up the way that you want, and you got to be able to go just because it's your turn to go, and it's not perfect, but we're going to need you anyway. And I would like to have him have some reps outside of Dodger Stadium. Look, and he's done it, and he's had some success other places. He pitched in the other league. Like, it's not the end of the world. It's not like he hasn't done it. But I'm with you. I think if there's a way to kind of tilt the scales a little bit towards keeping him at Dodger Stadium, I would certainly try to do it. I think the other thing to keep your eye on, because everybody's kind of winking at it, everybody's kind of leaning towards it, is finding a way to get him into the bullpen in certain situations. And you can't do it a lot because of the DH thing that gets complicated. If he comes in as a reliever, he doesn't get the Shohei rule where he can stay in the game as a designated hitter. That gets a little tricky. But if you have a lead late and his spot isn't going to come up again, if you can slam the door, I think that you're going to see him in a relief role in the postseason. My question would be, do you see him in a relief role during the regular season just so you can dry run it, just so you can see what it feels like for him? To your point, Harry, to get him right, like he's the guys in the bullpen are sitting down there all night, and it's like, okay, they can go through their stretching routine, they can get through their throwing routine. Like, Shohei's spot in the order could come up at any point, and there's no time to get him. We saw him in the WBC a couple of years ago, running back and forth from the bullpen to get ready, and I'm sure they've discussed it. I'm sure he's told them in a perfect world how he would like to get ready, but I'm curious if they don't dry run it at least once during the regular season just to see how it feels for show.
I just say, look at the way that that things worked this past weekend with the Dodgers batting around multiple times, putting a lot of runs in the scoreboard, and actually the bats being hot. If you know that Shohei Ohtani is 6 spots away and you don't feel like the guys in front of him are going to get on base and you want to send him out to the bullpen, that's an idea. But with this lineup, I just see it very difficult to be like, okay, go warm up. Oh, crap, you got to be on deck right now. Put on all your protective gear, and you're going to have an at-bat right now. And then it's like, oh, no, the guy in front of you struck out. Now you're pitching. Go your pitching gear. I just feel like it's too difficult. I only saw it, and I brought it up. All our everydayers know it in one of the episodes where I said, should they have him in the bullpen or not? It's just too much of unpredictable stuff that happens in baseball where you don't know exactly how things will line up. And I don't want Shohei Ohtani to be in one mindset, put him in there, and then it's like, no, you got to come out, do different things, and you want to be focused in what you got going on. And with Shohei pitching 5-6 innings, looking great, I'd rather have him right there in the front and take care of business that way.
If there was a 100% or let's say 90% reliable bullpen option down there, I'd be with you 100%. There isn't. There just isn't somebody down there that you feel great about, and you're going to have to find a way to close some of these games in an think about the 2 World Series that the Dodgers have won in the last several years. Go back to 2020. Who closed the games? A starting pitcher. Julio Urias was the guy that closed the show in Dallas, right? When they beat the Tampa Bay Rays. Who was on the mound last year when they closed the show in New York? A starting pitcher in Walker Buehler closed the show. I think you're going to see it again. I wouldn't be one of those things where I'm trying to force feed it, but he might be your best option. He might be your single most unhittable guy in a one inning situation. I get it's complicated. This is what makes this man so extraordinary, is that if there's anybody that could manage the craziness of trying to get ready to hit, try to warm up in the bullpen. Maybe I pitch, maybe I don't. It's Shohei Ohtani. And I think we're pretty convinced that his pitching has not affected his offense in any meaningful way. I don't think you're going to see it a lot, but I wouldn't be surprised if you saw it once per series. And really in a very specific situation where not only is the game on the line, but I think the series is on the line, where if they have a chance to close the show and win the series, here comes number 17. I think you're going to see him late in the game. I really do.
And going back to the situation of him pitching exclusively at Dodger Stadium, I would say this. Look at his splits this season, comparing his home and away performances. He has allowed more than double the hits on the road, more than triple the extra base hits away from Chavez Ravine. His batting average against is less than 200 in LA compared to the nearly 300 away from Los Angeles. OBP and slugging 100 points lower at home compared than the road. And I'll say this isn't about limiting Shohei. It's about maximizing him, in my opinion. Every inning he throws at Dodger Stadium, I feel carries more confidence for him, more comfort for the coaching staff, and less risk overall. If you want a peak Ohtani in the postseason, you need to manage him with precision, because you're not just talking about managing a pitcher. You're also talking about managing your leadoff hitter, your leader when it comes to runs batted in, home runs, runs scored, base running. That's where you have to just play it smart. And Travis, you're a former pitcher in the college ranks. When you pitched in Santa Barbara compared to anywhere else, was it better? Did it better for you?
It's just more comfortable. It's more familiar. It's the little things like that can make, be the difference between being really sharp or kind of sharp. Now, Shohei's operating on a different level than just about any. Like, if you told me, Harry, whether it's at Dodger Stadium, whether it's at Petco Park, whether it's at Citi Field, whether it's in Philadelphia or any of these places, Yankee Stadium, Fenway Park, Toronto, in the world, it doesn't matter. If you said, hey, we got to get 3 outs, pick anybody on this team to go get them, I'm picking him. I'm picking him. He's the guy, because not only is the stuff, and we know how nasty it is. He's different, dude. He's just different. He's just a cold-blooded killer. He's got a smile on his face. He's pretty chill, but we saw him in the WBC. We've seen him now. He is built for these moments, and I think we're going to see it.
He's one of one, and also think about the show you're giving Dodgers fans in LA. Every Ohtani start, it's an event. I mean, it's always an event getting to watch him pitch. Now at the race for the divisional crown and October being there, man, that would be incredible.
Can't wait.
That's going to do it for today's show. If you're still craving more baseball talk, have the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night be your second listen. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find it on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And also catch Pete Fox every Dodgers game on our YouTube channel with his live postcast. We'll be back tomorrow as the Dodgers kick off a crucial 3-game series against the Phillies, with Ranger Suarez versus Emmett Sheehan being the pitching matchup, which, Travis, it should be a dandy.
Can't wait. Dodger Stadium in September with something on the line. Nothing like it.
If you see Travis, tell him you listen to Locked On Dodgers out
Absolutely.
there. We appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real. Keep it Dodger Blue.